A friend of mine at Cybercom, which is a combatant command in the United States military, tried to explain security to me a little while ago, and he said the following. He said, imagine every day you walk down the hall of your apartment building and you try every single doorknob every morning before you go to work. And I said, yeah, okay, where are you going with this? He goes, one day you're going to find a door that somebody left unlocked. It's guaranteed to happen. Doesn't have to be the first day, but if you do it every single day, one day you're going to find a door that's open and then you'll have your way in that apartment. I said, yeah. He goes, welcome to the world of cybersecurity. We have to be right every single day. They have to be right once. Wow, that just hurts. Because it's so obvious. So to use my favorite second aphorism about cybersecurity, it's a lot like oxygen. You don't notice it till it isn't there. Who we're going to notice right now is General Harry Raduege, and he's going to come up and tell us very specifically about cybersecurity, and more importantly, why every single one of us is at risk. Let's give it up for General Raduege.
Thanks, Shelley. Appreciate it. Thanks for the warm welcome here. And my name's Harry Raduege, and I'm with Deloitte. I've had the opportunity of being with Deloitte now for a little over 9 years. But Shelley implied before that I had a career in the United States Air Force, in the United States military. And about over my 35 years, over 17 of those years was in joint assignments. Now, something kind of interesting happened back in the late 60s. And let me just ask, how many in here have heard that the U.S. Department of Defense had something to do with creating the internet? That's fair. That's really good. It's actually out there on WikiLeaks. The background is there, and Wikipedia also the history of that. So anyway, it was something called the ARPANET, Advanced Research Projects Agency Network, and even Dr. Tracy this morning mentioned something about DARPA. And so the ARPA changed to DARPA when they added the defense part of that. But I was joining the military and coming on active duty just about that time frame, 45 years ago. And there was a lot going on. You had to remain flexible. You had to, because there was a lot of evolution going. And Shelley's mentioned some of the words here with his presentation, and some other speakers too. You know, it was really something going from analog to digital. You know, we were changing everything to ones and zeros. So that was on my time in the military. Had to remain flexible to all that. We also were finding that we were using computers a lot more, and we were storing all those ones and zeros. And then all of a sudden, as this internet developed, it started moving all this a lot quicker for us. And so we stored all this information. And so the internet sort of became known in later years, and later terminology, as cyberspace. And so all of this information technology change was coming at us back in that time frame at the speed of light. And today, our dependence on cyberspace, all of us, globally, is relevant. And the fact that we are so dependent on it, there's also risk. And that is the subject of my presentation today, which was shown earlier here. Cybersecurity, everyone is at risk. So, what's the answer? We're all at risk. We've been talking about this issue. Well, let me just give you a brief history of some of my time in this. In 1997, 27 years after we actually were starting with this internet, we were having huge problems with hackers defacing the Pentagon systems. And so in 1998, we created and initiated an organization that developed a computer network defense for our Pentagon and Department of Defense networks. In 2001, we really recognized the growing dependence that we were having on the internet and cyberspace. And everyone was talking about everything over IP. Remember that? Voice, video, and data over IP. So we were putting everything on the internet. And I think during my time on active duty, when the 9/11 events happened, I recognized the fact that there were some serious national security concerns with continuity of government. I was also the manager of the national communication system at that time. So we had Washington, D.C. and New York City that were suffering from a lack of ability to communicate very well at that particular time. So not only was it national security concerns, but economic, the world economy was also at stake. In 2004, that organization that we started in 1998 grew into something called the Joint Task Force for Global Network Operations. It was a precursor of what Shelley mentioned a little while ago about the U.S. Cyber Command. And I was privileged to be the first commander of the Joint Task Force for Global Network Operations. That was strengthening in our ability to protect the cyberspace of the Department of Defense. I left the military and I joined Deloitte. And in 2008, Deloitte gave me the opportunity of being a co-chair of the Commission on Cybersecurity for the 44th President. And along with 2 congressional members and another industry leader, we put together some recommendations for the President. And we actually started to talk more and more about the terminology and the prefix cyber. Cyber was starting to now get into our daily discussions. In 2009, a lot of things started to happen. And I think some of it was a result of our commission report. Actually, there were 3 of them. But there was a policy review that the President performed. He appointed a cybersecurity coordinator that worked at the White House. Over on Capitol Hill, the 2 congressional members that served as co-chairs of the commission started a cybersecurity caucus. And there was lots of legislation that started to be discussed. Well, then in 2010, the U.S. Cyber Command was created. And so that put a lot of emphasis, again, on protecting U.S. assets and, of course, U.S. Cyber Command also through proper authority as helping in our industry and other avenues of cyberspace. Currently, though, to bring us all forward, I don't think I have to mention to this group that cyber attacks are happening everywhere. Cyber espionage. Intellectual property is being stolen every day. Sabotage. In fact, hard drives are actually being wiped out of total industry and organizations. Data theft. Terabytes of information are being stolen every day. And cyber crime. There were 500 million records that were stolen just within the last 12 months that people are taking advantage of in all kinds of areas. It's across government, banking and finance, healthcare, oil and gas, retail, supply chain. Everywhere you look, everybody who uses a computer and operates in cyberspace has this to deal with. Commercially, the attacks are going up, the crime is increasing, and we're also starting to talk more and more now about the possibility of cyber war and even cyber terrorism. So, the attacks are getting more sophisticated and higher frequency all the time. What's the future hold? Well, we've talked about it a little bit already with some of our speakers, the Internet of Things, and frankly, the Internet of Everything. 10 billion things estimated to be attached to cyberspace and the Internet today, going up perhaps 5-fold in less than 5 years, up to 50 billion different things being attached to the Internet. So, we're also talking in C-suites and boardrooms today about the fact that we're going to be going and using more mobility. We're going to be using cloud technologies. So this is no longer in the back room of IT. This is now in the boardroom of major organizations globally. So there's nowhere to hide. But it's not all gloom and doom. We can't let this get us down. However, every day we read and we hear about the attacks that I've mentioned in the espionage, sabotage, and criminal activities. However, cybersecurity does not have to be thought of as a zero tolerance type activity. In other words, frankly, smart organizations today are realizing that some attacks are going to succeed. It's going to come at you, and you've got to deal with it. So the answer to this perplexing problem is, how do you manage the risk? It's all about risk management and fostering, frankly, a culture within organizations to discuss awareness and also to have thoughtful caution in place about this. And it all starts at the top with the seniors and the C-suite organizations. So I'd like to propose the fact that we take an approach where you have a business-driven, holistic, risk-based type plan within your organization. And organizations, frankly, need to first be secure with risk-prioritized controls. They need to be vigilant with risk and threat awareness. That can include wargaming, information sharing, and risk mitigation audits within organizations. And third, they need to be resilient. In other words, they need to handle the critical cyber incidents that are going to happen within an organization. Probably a reconstitution and a recovery plan are definitely in order in that regard. So the bottom line is that the internet and cyberspace are with us today. We have great opportunity and vulnerability. It's going to continue. We are very dependent on cyberspace and the internet. And others, though, are exploiting it and for evil purposes. So we need to employ proper cyberspace risk management for both and all-inclusive of our national security, our economic prosperity, our national interest, and our individual well-being. Thank you very much for your kind attention.